October 1st, 1989 was the birthday of Biblical Counseling Center, a new ministry funded by the gifts of two generous medical doctors who had a vision for a biblically based counseling center in the Chicago area. The first office started modestly on the second floor in a downtown Arlington Heights building with one counseling office and a small waiting room. Dr. Ron Olchin was the first counselor and his wife Sherry was the receptionist, secretary, and bookkeeper. BCC's desire was to be more than a counseling center, but to be a counseling training ministry. But in order to host training seminars, BCC moved to a larger office down the street, where they were able to offer their first course, Foundations in Biblical Counseling. Karen Coulter, who is now one of BCC's counselors, was one of 5 persons in the first class. In the spring of 1992, BCC moved to its present office space in Arlington Heights. It now occupies a spacious office with 5 counselors and 5 support staff. In the fall of 2007, BCC opened a South Side office in a temporary office space graciously given by the Linwood United Reformed Church. Because of the growth of the South Side Center in both training and counseling, BCC is now searching for a professional office space and hopes to open a permanent South Side office this summer. BCC's counseling training has developed from just one course in 1992 to a certificate program of 4 courses, with many receiving training towards a certificate in biblical counseling. The 4 courses offered are Foundations of Biblical Counseling, Contemporary Issues, Marriage and Family Counseling, and Advanced Issues. And for those who want to attain a nationally recognized certification from NANC or IABC, they can complete BCC's Portraits in Biblical Counseling on DVD, which fulfills their live counseling observation requirements. Through the years, BCC has developed many short courses and has tailor-made weekend seminars to suit the needs of churches that invite BCC staff for training, seminars, or retreats. Some of these include Crisis Counseling, Victory Over Addiction, Intimacy in Marriage, Keys to Family Unity, and Parenting Kids in Difficult Times. BCC's bookstore is available either in the office or on their website and has become for many a trusted, solid, biblically based resource, meeting personal needs as well as providing tools to guide them as they disciple or encourage others. You are invited to stop by the office or go to biblicalcounselingcenter.org and click on the bookstore. As Galatians 6:1 says, if someone is caught in a sin, you who are spiritual should restore him gently. But watch yourself, or you also may be tempted. This has been an exciting 20 years, and Biblical Counseling Center continues forward with its mission and commitment to provide counseling training, counseling resources, and counseling.
The theme of this 20th anniversary fellowship dinner is remembering the past, ready for the future. I trust this video gave you some understanding of the ministry of Biblical Counseling Center over the last 20 years. Many of you that are here tonight are our new friends, and we thank you for being here. This fellowship dinner is a way to expand the awareness of our mission and to increase the friends who will partner with us to accomplish the enormous task God has set for us. I'd like to welcome all of our past guests. You're so faithful and you've been with us many, many years. Thank you for coming and thank you for inviting our new friends that are here with us tonight. Certain people I need to recognize very quickly, but you saw the lady who was the bookkeeper, the receptionist. She did everything else when we got things started. And that's my wife, and she's right here. And please, Sherry, stand up. The staff of BCC is scattered around the room, but I thank them, the army of volunteers that it takes to put on a dinner like this. I thank Darrell Jackson and Ron Olchin Jr., who work as our coordinators of these events. The board of BCC, who oversees and guides the direction of Biblical Counseling Center, making sure that it stays on its right direction with the right mission. Again, welcome to the 20th Anniversary Fellowship Dinner. What this means is that for 20 years, we've been staying on track with the way God directed us as a mission. From day one, the Energy of Biblical Counseling Center has been focused on equipping local churches through counseling training, counseling resources, and counseling. God's Word tells us that counseling is the church's responsibility. We believe that and are convinced that many people in the church genuinely want to help, but don't because they don't know how. And that's why the number one mission of the Biblical Counseling Center isn't to counsel, but it is to train and equip the local church to take on that responsibility that God set up for it, and to counsel and admonish one another. So for 20 years now, BCC has trained thousands of church leaders and laymen how to counsel one another. Hundreds of counselors, pastors, lay leadership are trained yearly. Hundreds of lay counseling ministries in local churches have been both started in the U.S. and around the world. Some in small churches, some in large churches where the lay counseling ministry number is close to 50 lay counselors. Small churches and large churches have started lay counseling ministries as a regular part of their church's ministry to one another and to their community. I regularly get emails from Cuba, Ethiopia, and now Romania about the impact of our counseling training from pastors, from seminarians, from lay counselors. Pastors and seminarians whose ministries are changing because of the impact of biblical counseling principles that they were taught are now having on their ministries, and they're including it in their preaching. From Cuba, we've seen the church there embrace lay counseling as a model, and many of the churches are starting their own lay counseling ministries. In Ethiopia, we've taught hundreds of pastors and evangelists and leaders in the college there. And these have taken it to their churches and have counseled their people that have started counseling ministries right within their churches in Ethiopia. Biblical counseling goes across the culture, where we see God saying to people in the United States, you're responsible to counsel people in your church, in your congregation. Likewise, it's the same thing in Ethiopia because it's the same word that's giving them that directive. Every week I get emails from some former trainee. Many pastors call and consult looking for direction with a difficult counseling case. But I recently received an email and sent material to someone in Romania on suicide. He said, send me a letter, I have a counselee who's considering suicide. Do you have any material? I took our outline on suicide, attached it to the letter, sent it to him, and he responded back saying it was so helpful for him. He thanked me for the resource that he had in us. We're happy to have with us tonight the pastor, Pastor Marcel Cordos, the senior pastor of Cetate Baptist Church of Alba Iulia, Romania. It was his church that hosted the counseling training of 250 pastors, evangelists, and seminarians and lay counselors in Romania. And the people were from the Romania and from Ukraine. And we welcome him tonight. He's sitting right over here. He is. Give him a hand. I want you to imagine the multiplication that we have going on here. Train people, multiplying, sharing their truths with others. Multiplication of churches, getting pastors right in the trenches of the colleges and the seminaries where their church is going to be started and influenced by them in biblical counseling areas. But the multiplication of people that are being changed around the world, Cuba, Ethiopia, Romania, Dominican Republic, other places where we've been and trained. It's not just the pastors that are being trained, they're affecting many, many people in their churches. They're guiding them through biblical truth to the answers that they need for their life. Biblical Counseling Center has also spent 20 years developing counseling training materials that are approved by 2 national biblical counseling certified organizations. And the books and other materials in our library